Okay, hello everyone. Today we are going to make revision about your midterm. Let's start it, and I'm gonna share my screen. Okay. That revision contains the topics which include in midterm. The first topic is slope. I'm not gonna give the whole detail, but mostly I'm gonna show the formula and give little information about it. The slope formula is delta y divided delta x. That means that change in vertical line divided change in horizontal line. Change means delta, and delta means that, for example, change in y means that y2 minus y1 divided x2 minus x1. It's like that. So I'm gonna give 2 points over here, and maybe I'm gonna ask what's the slopes for moving B to C or D to C. It's like that. Then we talked about the production possibility frontier curve. That production possibility frontier is a curve, and that show that when you use resources efficiently, that show the what you produce on the combination. What's the combination of what you produce it? So production possibility frontier, it's like that. You can see over here. If you are on the production possibility frontier, like A, B, C, D, E, and F, you are on the production possibility frontier, PPF. That means that you can use your production, not production, you can use your resources efficiently. That's why if you are on the PPF curve or production possibility frontier curve, that is called efficient. If you are inside on the production possibility frontier, that is called inefficient. If you are outside on the curve or production possibility curve, that is called unattainable. So I'm maybe gonna ask, please interpret the points on that graph. And maybe I'm gonna ask the all points. So what can I say? If you are on the PPF, A, B, C, D, E, and F, that is called efficient. If you are inside on the PPF, that is called inefficient. If you are outside, that is unattainable. I'm not gonna write over here, but maybe I'm gonna ask a question over here. I try to select. For example, let's assume that what is the slope? Yazamadım. Sorry. What is the slope for moving B? Not B. Okay. Okay, it doesn't matter. B to C. So B is our first point. C is our second point. Let's assume that this is vertical line Y. This is X. We can move B to C. So on the point B is our first point. So this is Y1, X1. And the point C denoted Y2 and X2. And we can use the formula for getting the slope results. Slope formula is equal to Y2 minus Y1 divided X2 minus X1. I'm gonna write slowly because it's really hard for using mouse. I forget to take my pen. Sorry about it. So 24 minus 28 divided 15 minus 6. So minus 4 divided 9. So slope formula is going like that. The first, so in production possibility frontier topic, the first question is maybe interpret the points. The second point is asking slope. Let's come to the third type of question. This time I'm going to ask the opportunity cost. Maybe you remember the meaning of opportunity cost. That show the when you make a decision, you get something and then you give up something for the best alternative you want. This is not a formula that shows what you get and what you give up when you ask the opportunity cost. Again, I'm going to take the laser over here. This time they ask D to C. The first point is D, then we can move to C. So what can we see over here? When we move D to C, we can move like that. So minus 5 and we get 6 over here. I forget to say in there, but I'm gonna write wrong over here. Normally, I said that this is the horizontal line, this is the vertical line. Normally, in vertical line, we use Y, and in horizontal line, we use X, but only that for that question. Please accept like that. But it doesn't matter, because in your midterm, I'm gonna tell it. But let's make it. If I ask vertical line X and horizontal line Y in previous question, the answer is still not the change, because the slope formula said that delta Y means that change in vertical line, okay? So this is not always equal to Y or X. It doesn't matter. We look the change in vertical line divided change in horizontal line. Okay? So please think these questions are different to each other. So we move C to D. We can give up 5 for Y and we get 6 units of X. So what's the opportunity cost of moving D to C? For giving 5 units of Y and get 6 units of X. Okay? Please always check the which goods or which goods or services can denoted in X or Y, because you see that maybe the questions say it's different in the forms of in vertical lines and horizontal lines. And one more point, maybe you should remember, when we get the absolute terms of slope, we find the marginal rate of transformation. And marginal rate of transformation show when we want to produce one more for the horizontal line, how much can we give up for the vertical lines? The marginal rate of transformation formula give opportunity to understand this. It looks like the formula of slope, but we get the absolute terms. Okay, it's like that. Let's make easy example on marginal rate of transformation. That's the same idea with slope. Which point I indicate first? That is our starting point. Then we write the second point. And in the question, I have to mention which one is located in vertical line and which one is located in horizontal line. In that question, ovens located in vertical line and refrigerator located in horizontal line. So the MRT, marginal rate of transformation formula, is absolute forms of delta y divided delta x. Delta y show the change in vertical line, so change in ovens, divided change in horizontal line, so change in refrigerator. So let's first look the change in ovens for moving B to C. You see when we move B to C over here, the change is minus 24. What about the change in horizontal line? Only 8. So we can divide minus 24 to 8 with absolute terms. The number is 3. What's the meaning of that 3? If we want to produce one more refrigerator for on moving B to C, we have to give up 3 ovens. Okay, that's all. The other type of questions related with absolute advantage and comparative advantage. In absolute advantage, the easy way of understanding which producer has absolute advantage, we can compare the level of production. The greater production shows the absolute advantage on that good. But when we turn to the comparative advantage, comparative means relatively look at it. We can compare the opportunity cost for each goods for each producer. So for one good, the producer has lower opportunity cost, means that that producer has comparative advantage on that good. Also, that producer gets the specialization and make trade on that goods. Okay, let's make that example for understanding easily on absolute advantage and comparative advantage. We have two producer, Carson and Edith, and two production or goods, sheepskin and veal. Carson, sheepskin 15 units for production, and for the veal 3 for Carson. Edith produce 12 sheepskin and 2 veal. Okay, let's start with asking the questions. The first question starts with the absolute advantage of first good, that's called sheepskin. What can I say? In the absolute advantage, we can compare the production level for all producers. So Carson produced 15, Edith produced 12 for sheepskin. That means that Carson produced more sheepskin than Edith, so Carson has absolute advantage on sheepskin. Okay. What about the veal production? Again, we can compare the level of production. Carson produced 3 veal and Edith produced 2 veal. Again, Carson produced more veal than Edith, so Carson also has absolute advantage on veal production. Okay, that's very easy to get it. We just look the level of production in absolute advantage. What about the comparative advantage question? In comparative advantage question, we can compare the opportunity cost for that good. If a producer has lower opportunity cost on that good, that means that that producer has comparative advantage on that production. Also, that producer get specialization and trade on that goods. Okay, the question start with this time for the wheel, not sheepskin. What can I say? For understanding the comparative advantage question, we can compare the opportunity cost. And opportunity cost formula is give up and get. How can we understand which one is give up and which one is get? By looking at the question. Okay, let's turn to the question. What can I ask in question? You see the wheels or wheel. In question, what can I ask that show the what we get? I can ask in wheel. So that is what we get. And the other production is what we give up. That is sheepskin. We can compare the Carson and Edit for the opportunity cost. Let's start with Carson. Opportunity cost Carson for wheel production. Give up sheepskin and get wheel. So we can divide. We can look the number of Carson firstly. What we give up? 15 sheepskin and we get 3 wheel. So 15 divided 3 is 5 for the opportunity cost of producing wheel for Carson. What about Edith? 12 divided 2. So opportunity cost Carson for wheel is 5. Opportunity cost for Edith for wheel is 6. What can I say? We can compare the opportunity cost, and the lower opportunity cost is the winner. So Carson has lower opportunity cost. So he has a comparative advantage on wheel production. So Carson also gets the specialization and trade on that goods. So if you win comparative advantage, you also get specialization and trade, okay? What about the sheepskin? Again, we compare the opportunity cost for each producer. This time you see the small opportunity cost or lower opportunity cost get for the Edit. So Edit has lower opportunity cost on sheepskin. So that lower opportunity cost give advantage on comparative advantage for the Edit. So Edit has sorry about it, I am a little bit sick. Edit has lower opportunity cost on sheepskin. So also Edit get the specialization and trade on the production of sheepskin, okay? We can compare the opportunity cost. Then we find the lower opportunity cost. That lower opportunity cost producer is the winner for specialization, trade, and comparative advantage. And how can we understand which one is get and which one is give up? What can I ask in the question? That is what we get, and the other production is what we give up. Okay, then we come to the demand and supply part. That demand and supply part give opportunity to understand how can we determine the price equilibrium and quantity equilibrium in the market. Let's start with the determinants of the demand. The first one is the good price, price of good. The second one is income. The third one is wealth. The fourth one is other product prices. Then your taste and preferences, and your future expectations about income, wealth, and prices. Okay, let's look a little bit detail about it. Firstly, we look at the price of own goods. Then we look at the other parts. Why we divide into two? Because the price of own good changes can create the movement along the demand curve. And the other factors can create the shifting on demand curve. Let's look at the detail with starting with the law of demand. That is the demand curve, my friends. And what we see over here, we see the negative relationship between price and quantity demanded. That negative relationship called law of demand. And when we change the price of goods, we can move along the demand curve, okay? Not shifting. We can move along A to B or B to C or D to A. It's up to question, but not shifting. We can move along the demand curve. So when the change in quantity demanded or change in the own price of good, that is called movement along demand curve. But the other factors like income, wealth, or price of other goods, taste and preferences, or future expectations that create on shift of the demand curve. Let's look at the detail about shift of demand curve. The second determinant of the demand is or related with the income and wealth. Two types of goods can affect by the changes of income and wealth changes or wealth changes. The first one is normal goods. We see the positive relationship on the demand and income changes side or wealth side. What does it mean? When your income or wealth increase, what can I say? There is a positive change on the demand. So if income or wealth increase, the demand increase. So if you see that relationship, you can call these type of goods normal goods. So that means that positive means direct relationship. When income or wealth decrease, the demand of normal goods decrease also. Okay. As I said, two types of goods. The first one is normal goods, and the second one is inferior goods. In inferior goods, we see this time negative relationship between income and demand changes. That means that when income or demand increase, the demand of the inferior goods decrease. So if you see this direction, that is called inferior goods. I'm already give many details about it. That's why I move fast over here. So when our income or wealth decrease, demand for the inferior goods become higher because that shows the negative relationship between income or wealth with the changes of demand. The other factors of demand is price of other goods and services. So again, the two types of goods can be affected by the changes of income, not income, sorry, the changes of other product prices. This time, substitute goods and complementary goods. Let's assume two types of goods, X and Y. In substitute goods, we see the positive relationship. I give the example of McDonald's and Burger King. So when we talk about the substitute goods, that show the rival goods. So the competition level is too high for the substitute goods. So when price of X become higher, that means that goods become relatively expensive. And if there is no change on the price of Y, that means that become relatively cheap. That's why there is a competition over here. When one good become expensive, people try to demand other goods. So we see the positive relationship or direct relationship on price of X and demand of Y on the substitute goods. So if we see this relationship, that is called substitute goods. Again, that's true for the degrees part. When price of X become decrease, the demand of Y also become decrease. Because when the price of X become cheaper, it's relatively become cheap because there is no change on the price of Y. That means that people demand X rather than Y, so demand of Y become lower. Okay. And complementary goods or complements goods. In complement goods, we see the negative relationship. So if you see that relative relationship, that is called complementary goods. And that means that they act together. You can eat together. So when one of them become expensive, you don't also use another because you act together or eat together. And that is also true for vice versa. When it becomes cheaper, you demand X and Y also. So the demand of Y become higher. So if you see these types of relationship, these types of goods called complementary. Let's look at the future expectations about income, wealth, and prices. If you expect that your future income or wealth become higher, your demand become higher, and vice versa also is true. If you expect that future price become higher, you demand now, so demand become higher. If you expect that future prices become down, the demand become down also now. Okay, let's make an example about it. How can they change on the graph? In vertical line, that's denoted with price. In horizontal line, quantity. This is demand curve. How can we know? Because the law of demand said that the price and quantity demanded relationship is negative. Okay, I'm gonna show each of them individually, then we can put together on demand and supply side. I'm gonna now focus on more detail on examples for understanding easily. When our income or wealth increase, what's happened to demand for normal goods? What can I say? The relationship is direct or positive. So when one of them is increased, the other one is also increased. So demand curve increase. How can we show on the demand line? The demand line shifting to the right. Okay, it's showing like that. Again, the direct relationship. When the income or wealth decrease, the demand for normal goods become decrease. So that show on the demand curve is shifting to the left. Okay, it's like that. In inferior goods part, we can see the negative relationship. So one of them is increased, the demand become decrease. So demand curve is shifting to the left. It's like that. Again, ask for the inferior goods, and the relationship is negative. So one of them is decreased. The demand for inferior goods become higher. That means that demand curve is shifting to the right. And increase in the price of goods, that is complementary goods. In complementary goods, what can I say? They act together, they eat together. So when one of them is become higher price, we cannot use for the others. So demand curve become lower. So demand curve is shifting to the left. Okay. What about the decreased price? This time we can demand for the X. So demand curve is shifting to the right. What about the substitute? That is the rival goods. So the relationship is the same way. So demand curve is shifting to the right. What about the degrees for the substitute? The demand curve is also shifting to the left. So in complementary goods, the relationship is negative. The substitute goods, the relationship is the same. Decrease to decrease, increase to increase. Another type of question, good X becoming more fashionable. Fashionable means that people demand more, so demand curve is shifting to the right. That is the first part of the question. Then let's show the answer. Your expectation that household will increase in the future. What's the demand for? So you expect that you become rich in the future, so you demand now. So demand curve is shifting to the right. If you expect that you become poor in the future, so your demand become low, so demand curve is shifting to the left. The household's expectation that the price of good X will increase in the future. So can you buy it now or later? I can buy it now, so demand curve become higher now, so demand curve is shifting to the right. What do you expect that if the price become lower in the future? I cannot buy now, so demand curve is become lower, so demand curve is shifting to the left. Let's come to the supply part. This time, few factors or determinants for the supply. The first one is the same with demand, the price of goods. The second one is price of input, or that is called cost of price, cost of production, sorry about it, or technologies. Let's look at the shape of supply. It's like that. That slope is positive. So where did it come from? That come from the law of supply. But where can we get it? The relationship, by looking at the relationship price and quantity supplied. So the relationship price and quantity supplied is positive. That is called law of supply. And that shows the shape of supply curve. When we move when we change the price of goods, we can move along the supply curve like the same with demand curve. But the other factors can create the change on the shift of the supply curve, okay? Shift to the left or right. And please understand that the shifting is different on the demand and supply side. Let's make example about understanding easily. Let's assume that the input price or input cost or cost of production become higher. What can it happen? The supply become low because the production costs become higher. So the producer produce less. This is supply curve because the relationship is price and quantity supplied is positive. So when the production cost become higher, the producer produce less. So supply curve is shifting to the left. Okay. Supply curve is shifting to the left means that supply become lower. When it becomes cheap on input cost side, that means that production cost become lower. So in the lower production cost, the producer wants to produce more. So supply curve is shifting to the right. That is the increase of supply. Another example, you can use more efficient technology, so you produce more, so supply curve is shifting to the right. Okay, let's put together on demand and supply side for getting market equilibrium. When we get together quantity demanded and quantity supplied, we get market equilibrium on price and quantity side. The quantity demanded denoted with QD, quantity supplied denoted with QS, and the intersection point on demand and supply curve show that market equilibrium part. This is demand curve, this is supply curve. The intersection point on these two curves denoted price of equilibrium and quantity of equilibrium, okay? And the intersection point called equilibrium or market equilibrium. But that equality cannot always occur. Sometimes quantity demanded greater than quantity supplied, or another term, quantity supplied is greater than the quantity demanded. Let's assume that the authority or the government determine the price below the equilibrium price, so below at that point. When the authority determine the price below the equilibrium price, we see that the quantity demanded is greater than quantity supplied. That is called shortage or excess demand, okay? Or some authority determine above the equilibrium price. This time the quantity supplied become greater than quantity demand. So that is called excess supply or surplus. I'm gonna show each changes of demand or supply individually. Let's put together on the graph and how demand or supply changes can create new market price or market equilibrium price or equilibrium quantity or market equilibrium quantity. Okay, let's assume that X is a normal good and our income decreases. That's our first starting point. Before changing in income, the market equilibrium conditions is like that. P0 and Q0. Let's assume that our income decreases and X is a normal good. What can it happen? Normal good and income affect the demand changes or demand shifting. And the relationship is direct. So when income decreases, the demand of normal goods decreases. So demand curve is shifting to the left. Let's look when the demand curve decreases, the demand curve is shifting to the left. So we have a new intersection point. There is no changes in supply curve, but there is a change in demand curve, D0 to D1. So our new intersection point is over here. That is P1 and Q1. What can we see over here? The price become lower and quantity become lower. Okay, so when the price, not price, when the demand become lower, the price and quantity become lower. Okay. This time, ask for the inferior goods. In inferior goods and income relationship is negative. So when income become lower, the demand on the inferior goods become higher. So demand curve is shifting to the right. When demand curve is shifting to the right, we have a new equilibrium points over here. So price turn it to P0 to P1 and quantity become Q0 to Q1. Okay. So when demand become higher or shifting to the right, price become higher, quantity become higher. Okay. Normal good, increase in income. So demand curve is shifting to the right. When demand curve is shifting to the right, price become higher, quantity become higher. Okay. Because relationship is direct. For the inferior goods part, the relationship is negative. So when the income become increased, the demand for the inferior goods become lower. So demand curve is shifting to the left. When demand curve is shifting to the left, price become lower and quantity become lower. Let's come to the price of substitute. I give the example of Pepsi and cola, and the relationship is direct. And please do not memorize the example because in our midterm, I'm gonna ask not the real life. I'm gonna ask my assumptions. So you try to understand the direction. And for the substitute good, the direction is the same. Increase to increase or decrease to decrease. So when the price of substitute good become higher, the demand become higher. So that means that demand curve is shifting to the right. When it become shifting to the right, the price and quantity become higher. In complementary goods, the relationship is negative. So when the price of complementary goods become higher, the demand become lower. So demand curve is shifting to the left. When it becomes shifts to the left, the price and quantity become lower. This time ask for the substitute goods. What can I say? The relationship is the same for the substitute goods. So when the price of substitute good become lower, the demand become lower. So demand curve is shifting to the left. When demand curve is shifting to the left, the price and quantity become lower, as you see on the graph. In complementary goods, we see the negative relationship. So the price of complementary goods become lower, the demand become higher. So demand curve is shifting to the left. So the price and quantity become higher position. Let's come to another example. Increase in production cost of X. Production cost or price of input are the determinants of the supply. When it become higher, the production cost become higher. So the producer produce less. So supply curve become lower. That's called decrease in demand. When the supply curve decrease or shifting to the left, the new equilibrium points come to the new intersection point of S1 and D0. So when supply curve is shifting to the left, price become higher, P0 to P1, and quantity become lower. So decrease in supply means that decrease in production. When a good become low level, it become high price. I'm gonna memorize like that in my student, when I was in student. Decrease in production cost means that supply curve is shifting to the right. When supply curve is shifting to the right, price become low and quantity become higher. So let's make revision about these. What can happen in demand and supply part? We talk about 4 options: when demand higher or demand lower. When demand curve is shifting to the right, price equilibrium and quantity equilibrium become higher. Sorry about my bad drawing. When the demand curve is shifting to the left, price and quantity become lower. Or we talk about the supply side. Supply increase means that supply curve is shifting to the right, or supply curve is shifting to the left for the decrease in supply. Increase in supply means that there's an increase in quantity and inverse relationship with price. When supply curve is shifting to the left, decrease in supply, quantity become lower and price become higher. Okay, that's the summarize. Okay, I'm gonna also ask, I get the laser over here. Consider the following supply and demand model of the world tea market. I give the price, quantity supplied, and quantity demanded. I show the each prices, how can they affect the supply and demand side. Let's start with the question A. Is there a shortage or surplus when the price is equal to 0.38? And what about the 0.34? Let's start with 0.38. In 0.38, the quantity supply is 1,500 and quantity demanded is equal to 525. As you see, the quantity supplied is greater than quantity demanded over here. So this is called surplus. And the difference shows how much it surplus or excess supply. What about the over here? This time you see the quantity demanded is greater than quantity supplies. So this is called shortage or excess supply. I'm gonna write the detail over here. You can also check it. What about the equilibrium price? You can remember the equilibrium condition. When I ask equilibrium, you can try to get always remember QD is equal to QS. So at that row, quantity supplied is equal to quantity demanded. And at that row, the price is 0.36 and quantity equilibrium quantity is equal to 700. Okay, that's all. It doesn't matter because your exam is multiple choice. So I'm not gonna draw any graph. But maybe you should draw it to get answer. Don't forget it. So that's the shape of demand and supply curve by using table. I'm also asked it again. So in 0.38, I set the surplus over here and the amount is 1,500 minus 525. So 975 billions of tea are the surplus or excess supply. But don't forget, we get the absolute terms. So when we talk about shortage, also we talk about the positive number, not negative number. And one more example. I may ask finding equilibrium price and quantity by using function. Okay. I get the laser again. The first show the quantity demanded equation. 100 minus 4 multiplied P. Quantity supplied is equal to 10 plus 2P. The first question asks, what is the price of equilibrium and quantity of equilibrium? When we talk about equilibrium, you remember the equilibrium condition. And the second question is, when the price is equal to 20, is there any surplus or shortage? Let's start with the equilibrium. What can I say? You remember the equilibrium condition. QD is equal to QS. Then you can write together over here. That is the function or equation of QD. And that is the equation of QS. Let's put one side on the number and another side of the variable. So we can find price of equilibrium is 15. Then you can put these numbers on the quantity demanded side on P or QS part to find quantity of equilibrium. Let's assume that. Let's put on the quantity supply part, and quantity equilibrium is equal to 40. If you don't believe me, you can put also over here. And the B part, they said that when the price is equal to 20, that can it happen? We can put 20 on the both equation, then show the quantity demanded or supplied, which one is greater, show the answer. So quantity demanded is 20 and quantity supplied is 50. As you see, quantity supplied is greater than quantity demanded. That's called surplus. When we get the difference over here with absolute terms, they give the how much surplus over it, and that is equal to 30. I have a good news. I'm not included in the last topic, so that is our last topic, elasticity. I'm not gonna ask the utility part for utility maximizing or consumer equilibrium. I'm gonna ask in the final. So that is a good opportunity to get good results on your midterm, okay? As you see in previous chapters, we see the relationship of price and quantity changes, but how much these quantity changes can occur. For understanding how much can it change, we need to make some sensitivity analysis, and that is called elasticity. And in the lecture, I gave the example of punch example. If I punch you, how can you punch me back? Okay, but we cannot ask in the punch. We can use the price. When we change the price, how can your demand changes? More, less, same? It's like that. We talk about the three types of elasticity. The first one is price elasticity of demand. That means that when we change the price, how can it changed by these price changes? It's like that. I'm gonna write over here. And one more good point to you. Normally, I gave two formulas over here, percentage change formula and midpoint formula. But I'm not gonna ask, okay? But when we talk about the price elasticity of demand is like that. Percentage change in price, percentage change in quantity demanded. That means that when we change the price, how can change in quantity demanded? Normally, you should calculate it, but I'm not gonna ask in that way. You need to memorize these steps or try to understand the mechanism. It's up to you. If I get the laser and talk about it, if the answer is equal to 0, that is called perfectly inelastic, and the shape is like that. And when it becomes inelastic to elastic, the rival or perfect competition level become higher and it's become more horizontal, okay? But don't forget it, if the answer is equal to 0, that is called perfectly inelastic. If the answer is the range between 0 and 1, that's called inelastic. If the answer is equal to 1, that is unit elastic. If the answer is greater than 1, that is called elastic. If the answer is equal to infinite, that is called perfectly elastic. Okay? And the shape of inelastic, it's like that. Shape of perfectly elastic, it's like that. Then we talk about the relationship between elasticity and total revenue. The total revenue formula is equal to price multiplied quantity. We can look to the elastic and inelastic goods. Elastic goods means that if I punch you, you punch me more. Okay, the reaction is more. So when the type of elastic good price become higher, the quantity demanded become lower, but reaction is more. More reaction. So the size of decrease is greater than the increase of price. So the total revenue become lower. Because the lower part, the decrease part portion is greater than the increased part of the price. So in the elastic goods, the total revenue and price relationship is negative. So if you change the price of elastic goods, the total revenue become lower. What about the decrease price? When we decrease the price of elastic goods, the quantity demanded become very high or greater than the decrease part. So the total revenue become higher. So for the elastic goods, the relationship with total revenue and price is negative. What about the inelastic goods? Inelastic goods, the reaction is less, okay? Little response or. When we increase the price of inelastic goods, the quantity become lower but few. So the price increase greater than the decrease part of the quantity, so the total revenue become higher. As I said before, the electricity or gasoline is like the example of inelastic goods in real life. And you see always the gasoline price become higher and the quantity demanded falling little bit. That's why they always total revenue become higher. But don't forget the real life example. You try to understand the direction. So the inelastic goods, the relationship between total revenue and price is same direction. So when the decrease price of the inelastic goods, the quantity become higher but few. So when the price of inelastic goods become down or decrease, the total revenue become also decrease. Okay. We have a 3 formula on elasticities. The first one is we talk about it. price elasticity of demand. The second one is income elasticity of demand. That means that when we change the income, how can it change? By the changes of income on the quantity demanded. So we have a three option. If you find answer is positive but less than 1, that is called normal and necessity. The second one is positive and greater than 1, that is called normal and luxury goods. If you find answer is negative, inferior goods. Okay. In the price elasticity of demand, we get the absolute terms, but over here we don't get it. And the last type of elasticity is cross elasticity of demand. So when there is a change on the price of X, how can they affect the quantity of Y? This show the in previous topics, substitute and complementary example. If you answer find positive, that is called substitute goods. If the answer is 0, unrelated, and the answer is negative, that is called complementary. I'm gonna show the whole part, but normally you should calculate the X and Y, but I'm not gonna ask in that way, so I can skip it. I can skip that part. So the question come to at that form. Let's start it. Which ones are inelastic and which ones are inelastic in demand? By understanding which goods are inelastic or elastic, we try to look at the price elasticity of demand. So that part. In the first part, we see the goods name. We have a goods gasoline, diamond, tea, bus. Then show the price elasticity of demand results. Then show the income elasticity of demand. Then another goods, diesel, milk and car. That means that there is no information over here. If there is no information, we cannot comment it. And they show the results of cross elasticity of demand. What can I say? If I ask which goods are inelastic or elastic, we can look at the price elasticity of demand part over here. Let's remember the answers for the interpretation of price elasticity of demand. You can see over here, if the answer is 0, perfectly inelastic. The range between 0 and 1 inelastic. If it's equal to 1, unit elastic or unitary elastic. If price elasticity of demand is equal to, not equal to, greater than 1, sorry about it, elastic. And if it's equal to infinite, that's called perfect elastic. Let's look at it. If we look at the gasoline, 0.2, the range between 0 and 1, so this is inelastic. Diamond answer is 5, so greater than 1, elastic. T 0.25, again inelastic. Then bus 0.20, inelastic. The question asks which goods are inelastic. Gasoline, tea, and bus. Okay. And if I ask which one is elastic, that is diamond. If I ask which goods are normal and which goods are inferior, we look at the income elasticity of demand part, that part. Again, three options. For the income elasticity of demand, show positive but less than 1, normal and necessity goods. Positive and greater than 1, normal and luxury, negative, inferior goods. So gasoline, income elasticity of demand answer is negative. So this is inferior. Diamond, 1.3. So it's over here, normal and luxury. T, there is no information, so don't make any comment. For the bus, 0.10, normal and necessity. So diamond and bus are the normal goods. I write luxury, sorry about it. Gasoline is inferior. Diamond normal and luxury. And bus normal and necessity. Okay. And which goods are substitute and which goods are complementary? For understanding which goods are substitute and complementary, we looked at the cross price elasticity of demand. If the answer is positive, substitute, 0 unrelated, and negative complementary. But this time, two types of goods. So you can read like that. Gasoline and diesels, negative results, complementary goods. Diamond and there is no information, don't make any comment. Tea and milk, positive results, substitute goods. Bus and car, 0, unrelated goods. Okay. So substitute goods are tea and milk. Unrelated goods, bus and car. And complementary goods, gasoline and diesel. And last example. If the price of gasoline increases, how will affect total revenue? Gasoline is a what type of a good? Inelastic goods. In inelastic goods, the price and quantity relationship is positive, okay? Because the reaction is less. When price become higher, the quantity decrease, but little bit decrease. So the increased part is greater than the decreased part. So total revenue become higher position. And I think that's enough, but let's look at that question also. When the price of milk increases 1%, how will quantity demanded of tea be affected? Tea and milk are the substitute goods, so there are the rival goods. There's a competition over here. One of them become expensive price. The demand for the other good become higher. How much? That much. Okay. I'm gonna close it. Okay. Thanks for watching that video. So I'm not gonna ask in utility topic. That's a, I think, good opportunity to get high results. And good luck on your exams. Thanks for your watching. See you on exam. Bye-bye.